Tonight, LA schools closed because of the threat involving explosive devices and guns. More on that in a moment.
Republican presidential candidates face off in the biggest debate of the primary. And a final goodbye. We'll explain that later. Stay tuned. This is NYU Tonight. I'm Yamna Patel.
And I'm Lucas Vasquez. Here's our top story. An electronic security threat prompted the Los Angeles School District to cancel all classes today. I have more on that story. Watch this space. Classes were canceled Tuesday for all 660,000 Los Angeles Unified School District students. This was following an electronic security threat. The threat was sent via email to a school board member Monday evening, and it was traced back to an IP address in Frankfurt, Germany. It was directed towards multiple schools and mentioned the use of explosive devices and guns. Citing recent events, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti and School District Superintendent Ramon Cortinez defended the decision to cancel classes.
I made the decision to close the schools. That was after talking to the Chief Deputy Superintendent, the Chief of Police of the School Police, and after they reviewed with me the information that had been shared with them. Based on past circumstances, I could not take the chance.
As a parent and as a mayor, certainly I'm here to support this school district as it seeks our help to ensure that we can look at each one of these campuses and make sure that they are safe for all of our children. And an abundance of caution is something that I think all of us who have children appreciate.
New York City Police Chief Bill Braden stated at a press conference that New York had received the same threat but criticized Los Angeles' reaction. He said that it was an overreaction and called the threat a hoax. He linked its lack of credibility due to a misspelling of the word Allah and the non-specific nature of the threat. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio echoed Mr. Braden's comments, saying that, quote, "These threats are made to promote fear, and it would be a huge disservice to our nation to close down our school system." Los Angeles Police Chief Charlie Beck did not take well to these comments and defended his city's response to the threat.
It is very easy, in hindsight, to criticize a decision based on results that the decider could never have known. It is also very easy to criticize a decision when you have no responsibility for the outcome of that decision. And I think it's irresponsible to, based on facts that have yet to be determined, to criticize that decision at this point.
The conflicting responses reflect different atmospheres in both cities. Authorities in California are on high alert following the December 2nd massacre in San Bernardino that left 14 dead. They appear to be taking extra precautions of preventing another terror attack from happening in Southern California. Reporting live from New York, Lucas Vasquez, NYU Tonight. We actually have an update on that story. The control room is telling me right now that ranking Democrat Adam Schiff, who serves on the House Select Committee on Intelligence, he has recently stated that although investigators are still gathering more information about the origin of this threat, it is believed to be a hoax. And I think this poses a great challenge for cities in responding to potential terror threats, whether they're a hoax or real or credible. So I think it's going to be something to look forward going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. While it's obviously a relief that this was a hoax and that no one is in actual real danger, it's going to be a huge problem if we keep having these hoaxes and people keep calling in when there's no real threat, because at a time like this, everyone in America is really scared of something that could happen. So
it'll sure be very interesting going forward.
And moving forward, polls have revealed that national security is, as we said, a top concern for American voters in the upcoming 2016 presidential election, eclipsing the economy. This comes after President Obama's speech at the Pentagon on Monday, where he emphasized an escalation of U.S.-led airstrikes and that ISIS has lost 40% of its territory following the violent events in Paris and San Bernardino that have Americans fearful of a large domestic attack. Republicans are responding that this is just rhetoric, and the U.S. isn't making any actual large-scale changes to its strategy against ISIS. This morning, Republican presidential hopeful Ben Carson released a 7-point plan on how he thinks we should defeat ISIS. The plan included Congress declaring war on ISIS and the Department of State investigating the Council on American Islamic Relations for possible support of Islamic terrorism organizations. Hillary Clinton will also speak to, today, the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. Her speech is expected to emphasize cooperation with Muslim American communities to combat terrorism. And despite the worries about ISIS, President Obama welcomed 31 new American citizens today at a naturalization ceremony in Washington. He delivered a defense of liberal immigration policies, saying America betrays its history and its values when it fails to welcome those fleeing poverty, hunger, and war from all around the world. He also said that the country can't again allow any immigrant groups to be singled out, as happened during World War II.
And we should be strong enough to acknowledge, as painful as it may be, that we haven't always lived up to our own ideals. We haven't always lived up to these documents. And the biggest irony, of course, is that those who betrayed these values were themselves the children of immigrants. How quickly we forget. One generation passes, two generations passes, and suddenly we don't remember where we came from. And we suggest that somehow there is us and there is them, not remembering we used to be them.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. stands ready to work with Moscow after his meeting with Russia's President Vladimir Putin today in Moscow regarding the conflict in Syria and the Ukraine. Kerry and Putin met each other with warm smiles in accordance with the goal of their meeting, coming up with a peace plan both countries can agree on. Earlier, Kerry met with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and the media sources say the two came out of the meeting saying the U.S. and Russia have agreed on a number of critical issues pertaining to Syria. We will continue to update you on this story as it develops.
The countdown continues to tonight's GOP debate. It's the final debate in the Republican primaries before the Iowa caucuses, and the candidates are suiting up. Will it be Trump versus Cruz, Cruz versus Carson, or everyone versus Trump? I went and took a look at the rundown. Here's that now. There are likely to be fireworks tonight as the Republican presidential candidates compete for the top spot heading into the Iowa caucuses. CNN is anticipating millions of viewers, and there's likely to be one topic on everyone's minds.
The key issue, the most important issue facing the country right now, as far as terrorism is concerned, is the aftermath of what happened in Paris, San Bernardino. These individuals, they want to be president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, and we wanted to make sure that Americans know where they stand.
Donald Trump has been very vocal about where he stands on national security, and it seems that many are standing with him. Despite the backlash he's faced in recent weeks for his plan to temporarily ban Muslims from entering the U.S., he's passed the 40% mark in a national poll from Monmouth University. That's more than the next 3 competitors combined. Take a look at this poll from ABC News, suggesting nearly 60% of Republicans back his ban on Muslims. And according to the billionaire businessman, it's not just Republicans that support him.
I have many friends that are Muslims, and I will tell you, they are so happy that I did this.
Coming up fast on Trump is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Cruz also has a history of making jarring remarks surrounding national security, like when he suggested a religious test for Syrian refugees not too long ago. But like Trump, his comments seem to be working for him. A new Quinnipiac poll shows Cruz in a virtual tie with Trump in the critical state of Iowa. Despite the neck-and-neck between Trump and Cruz, a different feud is expected to take center stage. Marco Rubio is rising in the polls and has emerged as the top establishment pick for the GOP. The Florida senator has used his recent momentum to go on the offensive, attacking Cruz on his isolationist foreign policies. And Cruz isn't taking the criticism sitting down. He's called Rubio out for being too centrist in his policies and even accused him of aligning himself with Democrats in the wake of the San Bernardino shootings. Meanwhile, the rest of contenders like Jeb Bush and Ben Carson will use the debate stage to try to win back some of their lost momentum. Yumna Patel, NYU Tonight.
Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, self-proclaimed Jason Bourne-style outlaw, will in fact face a general court-martial in connection with his 2009 disappearance from his base in Afghanistan. He could face life in prison if he's found guilty of desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. Bergdahl left his base in an attempt to get the attention of a general officer and voice his concerns about his leaders. Bergdahl was captured within hours and then held prisoner for 5 years before his dramatic rescue by the United States. Bergdahl's story is featured on the next season of the wildly popular podcast Serial.
He's been called the crazy piano man of Washington Square Park. If you've ever walked through the park, chances are you've seen him performing. Now he's moving on to something more personal. I sat down with Colin Huggins to learn about his latest project. Colin Huggins has been performing in Washington Square Park for almost 9 years. And while New Yorkers are no stranger to street performers, Colin's act is like no other. Huggins brings an entire piano to the park every time he performs. Now he's setting his sights on a new project.
I wanted to see if I could create something for myself that would require me to release something once a week. And so I created this project where I would go into a studio once a month and I would write 4 songs for 4 different singers, and then I would release one per week.
Huggins' project, which he calls the Colin Huggins Art Collective, continued for 6 months. Despite dwindling funds, Huggins decided to take his project in a new direction.
I was paying for all of this almost completely myself, and I wasn't making enough money to keep it going, and so I had to stop it, unfortunately. But I recorded about 25 songs, so 25 weeks, a new song every single week with a different singer. And one of these singers came from Reciprocity, the Reciprocity Foundation. They work with homeless youth, anywhere from 12 or 13 years old to in the early mid-20s. And so they introduced me to one of their students, a transgender girl named Elite. And so I met her, I listened to her voice, I wrote a song for her, and we recorded it, and it was a really amazing experience for her. And it made me think that maybe my project isn't something that is just good for me to write music, but maybe it's something that provides a very good experience for people who need a positive experience.
And a positive impact was what Colin brought. Rather than looking for singers to perform his pieces, each song composed for the Reciprocity Foundation is personalized for its performer.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
All he wanted to do was talk to me first to see what type of person I was and what the song's going to be about. And recently I lost someone very special to me to cancer. So he's like, okay, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do for you. And a couple of weeks later, I saw him again. He wrote me this beautiful song. Turned out very nice.
The song definitely represents me. The lyrics 100% represent, my hopes, my aspirations for the future and what I want to happen in the future. So it's a very hopeful song. I think what makes Colin stand out is that he's so understanding. And understanding is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with artists and music in particularly. Like, understanding is very important. And being able to understand our point of view and understand our desires, and even on a deeper level, understanding our emotions to even write the song to begin with, is something that Colin has, and that's what makes him great.
I know he's made a positive impact in my life. I didn't want to do anything at this point before this project. I was just going to travel. I didn't want to do anything. And that Adam, he's like, look, here's this guy that wants to write this song for you. And I'm like, nah, I don't know. I lost the song. I lost the music in me. But I met the guy, and he was just really nice. And that just took me by surprise. I never met someone like, I know I said this before, but I never met someone who just wanted to work and actually do something. I've met people here that want to work with me. Oh yeah, we'll do this, David, and months later never hear from him, but weeks later I hear back from him. Oh, okay, maybe he is legit, Maybe someone does care.
The Reciprocity Foundation's songs will be uploaded on the Colin Huggins Art Collective YouTube page. For NYU, I'm Suzanne Nguyen.
Diversity on university campuses has been a hot topic in the media recently, as the students of the University of Missouri protested against racism at their school. However, racism on college campuses is not unique to Missouri and actually happens right here at NYU, as I discovered this week.
58,547 students attend New York University. Of these, only 4.8% are African American, 8.1% are Hispanic or Latino, 0.2% are American Indian or Alaskan Native, and 14.5% are Asian, making the overwhelming majority white. And yet, NYU has been called one of the most diverse universities in the country. Recent events, however, such as the one at the University of Missouri, have catapulted students into action and shined a spotlight onto the NYU administration. NYU responded by having a diversity and inclusion talk in which school officials spoke and listened to students. However, there is still much work to be done.
In class one time in a recitation, whenever you're laughing, you just say like, oh my God, that's hilarious, whatever. And then me being ESL, I said like, ay Dios que risa, stuff like that, right? And this white student in front of me turns around really aggressively. She just like makes a 180 in like 0.5 seconds saying like, can you talk in English, you fucking spick? And that blew minds. I didn't know what to do.
There are some resources that students can count on.
The Center for Spiritual Life, CMEP, the Multicultural Center, the NYU LGBTQ Student Center. I would say even like the Wellness Center has a lot of resources as well.
But for some students and faculty, this isn't enough.
For resources within the university, it's just hard because the Wellness Center is not enough, because this isn't a mental disorder. We need to have a better system in how we deal with students dealing with racism on campus.
When people encounter difficulties, where do they go? When they feel not safe, what do they do? And I don't think NYU is doing enough about that, because that's a hard situation for them to address.
And yet, thousands of students from across the country still fight for the opportunity to come and study here in these halls, with the expectation of being part of a diverse community.
On a piece of paper, we look like, the damn globe is at NYU. But talk to the students. Talk to the students of color. Talk to the statistics and see if it's as diverse as you read in the pamphlet or whatever. Because it's not. It's really not.
For NYU Tonight, I'm Monica Serrano.
An American legend is back, perhaps the greatest movie franchise ever. Star Wars is back, bigger than ever. After a 10-year hiatus, it premiered last night in Los Angeles at the Chinese Man Theater. Ticket sales are projected to be in the billions. The Force Awakens is poised to be the biggest blockbuster success of the year. And Disney is following a modified Donald Trump marketing strategy. A brand so powerful it is getting enormous attention on media outlets to promote the film. in lieu of massive amounts of TV ads, resulting in another financially happy ending for Disney.
Giants fans can finally take a sigh of relief as the Giants end their 3-game losing streak, beating the Miami Dolphins 31-24. Eli Manning and Odell Beckham Jr. were the heroes of the night. Positioning huge numbers, Eli Manning threw for 337 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had a career-high completion percentage, while the electrifying Odell Beckham had 166 yards and 2 touchdowns, breaking off a huge 84-yard touchdown reception that ended up being the game-winning score, continuing his unbelievable 2-year career.
I'm Katherine Jones, and I'm here to give you all the deets to round up your style sphere. Take a break from binge-watching Project Runway for Nina Garcia at your fingertips. The host and creative director, Marie Claire, brings us our latest addiction with the installment of the trendiest level of the mobile craze yet, Candy Crush. With the help of editor-in-chief Ann Fodenwater and tech editor Jenna Blaha, Marie Claire will become the first ever magazine to have a level in Candy Crush once it goes live on Saturday. Can't wait? Preview the advanced level on Thursday. Sneakerheads, get ready to kick it with Complex Magazine's second episode of Sold Out, the underground economy of Supreme resellers. Go into the nitty-gritty of the sneaker resale market and find out what it takes to go from ATM campouts to eBay cashouts. This next story will have you blue and pink in the face. Pantone Universe and Sephora are giving your 2016 a head start with the 4th color of the year collection. Pantone spiced up next year's forecast by picking 2 colors, Rose Quartz and Serenity. But don't worry, the collection available later this month makes it perfect to wear both at the same time. Check out the 24-color eye palette, 2 lipsticks, and 6 shades of lip glosses. Now for your Celebrity Style 101. Zendaya is Bob Goals. She's one of Hollywood's youngest, but is able to work very mature looks. Zendaya walked the Star Wars red carpet with a slick back bob. In the words of the actress, let the sleigh be with you. Camila Bell rocked Andrew Gwynn at the Hollywood Reporter's Power 100 event. I'm loving the combo of color block and jacquard on the shift drafts. I'm feeling so jealous of the cast of Victorious right now. The actors of the hit Nickelodeon show reunited in the coziest looking onesies ever. Ariana Grande's cheetah print is def a fave, but honestly, anyone is perfect for these cold winter months ahead. Now we need to talk about Jennifer Lawrence's look at the Joy premiere. I think Marilyn Monroe, this is a bombshell outfit. The right amount of cleavage and a great silhouette. Just look at the fluidity of the fabric. Last but definitely not least, Lupita Nyong'o glistened at the premiere of Star Wars. Alexander Vautier dressed the starlight in the bejeweled gown that I bet you can see from galaxies away.
The Brooklyn neighborhood of Brighton Beach is a hotbed for immigrants beginning life in America, and yet it's undergoing significant changes. Take a look.
Nestled in South Brooklyn, not far from Coney Island, sits the neighborhood of Brighton Beach. Also known as Little Odessa, the area is home to many Russian, Georgian, and other Eastern European immigrants.
My love of Brighton Beach goes back to my roots. My grandparents came from Odessa, and as a kid, I used to come here in the summer and spend time with my grandmother. It was a Jewish neighborhood in those days. We had the delicatessen, Mrs. Stoll's knishes, and people looked out for each other. So when I got married in '64, I moved here.
Brighton Beach began as a trendy place for European tourists and visitors in the early 1900s. Back then, there were hotels along the beach instead of condos, and the only way to get to Brighton was by railway train.
К концу XIX века этот район становится фешенебельным в Нью-Йорке,
И, как я говорила, сюда съезжаются европейцы каждый год. Но Великая депрессия немножко прижала, так сказать, интерес к этому месту в силу, понятно, материальных причин прежде всего. А Вторая мировая война практически прекратила приезд европейцев сюда. И здесь, конечно, стали заселяться малоимущие люди.
In the 1960s and 70s, Brighton Beach remained predominantly Jewish. But in the 1980s, a new, more guttural voice appeared on its streets.
Но вообще Брайтон-Бич – это очень интересное место. Для многих оно является продолжением своей родины, которой они лишились, приехав в Америку.
Over the years, Brighton Beach has encountered a number of changes, ones that have not gone unnoticed by its local population.
I would say Brighton's like a kaleidoscope, ever changing, but always beautiful. Today now, we've seen some more changes happening. We have a very large Hispanic population here. Many of them undocumented. We have a large Pakistan community here. We have 3 mosques.
But diversification isn't the only thing residents have noticed.
Брайтон меняется. Брайтон меняется в том плане, что уровень жизни людей повышается. Просто приехала другая немножко иммиграция. Те иммиграции, которые приезжали в 70-е годы, они приезжали совершенно без денег. А потом стали ехать люди, которые уже продавали свои квартиры, дачи, и уже была возможность переводить деньги. В результате этого тоже стал меняться Брайтон.
Брайтон продолжает жить, и я думаю, он выходит на другой уровень, совершенно, который у него был в свое время, фешенебельного места, и он этого достоин. Особенно очень много молодых семей, и это показатель, потому что ребята с деньгами, хорошо зарабатывающие, получившие здесь образование, ставшие практически американцами, и как бы свысока глядевшие раньше на Брайтон-Бич, как только они поженились, вышли замуж, у них завелись дети. Оказывается, что на Брайтоне здоровее жить с детьми. Я думаю, что все те развалюхи, которые мы видели, они уже через 2 года их не будет. Будут стоять блестящие дома, билдинги, кооперативы, кондоминиумы. И, может быть, будет ходить здесь другая немножко публика. Но Брайтон как был, так и будет. Так что виват Брайтон!
Social media has altered the way we all communicate, and this week I explored the impact it's having on university life. Let's take a look.
We have a generation of students who are connected. They live in a connected world. If they live in a connected world, the classroom needs to be connected also.
From Facebook to Twitter, social media is everywhere. In many classes, professors like Mark Anthony Neal are embracing it by encouraging their students to use social media.
We actually developed a class identity, for hip hop. So, the class itself functions as its own kind of Twitter identity. And again, the whole idea is to be able to promote the great conversations that are taking place in the class.
This may seem like your typical college lecture, but this class is unique because students have the opportunity to pull out their cell phones and tweet about the highlights.
We encourage students to tweet. Right. Whatever's going on in the class, if you feel like sharing that to a larger public, sharing it amongst your friends, feel free to do so.
Students and faculty members use social media as a platform for discussion, both within the classroom and outside the class's walls, to reach the public.
Sitting down for a while, just having a discussion or listening to a lecture isn't the most effective way of learning. And so incorporating social media allows students to actually be more active participants.
The use of social media is pretty much like a tool and a call to action. So it's a way of materializing everything that we talk about.
This trend continues to rise. According to a higher ed study of 777 college students, 70% of students reported that social media in the classroom keeps them more connected, and nearly 50% use their devices in class for doing related coursework. The Language Arts and Media program teaches students communication skills in the digital age and promotes social media use. And a class titled The Selfie connects the global history of portraits to modern selfies.
I don't think that we should, say this is the end of classrooms as we know it, but I think we do have to explore the opportunities, and any leading institution of higher education really needs to be in the game of exploring.
Stephen Nowicki, the Dean for Undergraduate Education, has noticed the growth of social media and predicts that this is only the beginning of a major change that will impact not only the academic world, but also future generations.
I certainly do think, though, that it isn't just going to be elite colleges and universities that are in this game. We might be leading it in some cases. We might be inventing a lot of it, but I think it's going to be the genie is out of the bottle.
Reporting for NYU, I'm Kiera.
Now here's the weather with our own Chloe Hayes.
Day, which could set even more records. In New York City, we're looking at highs of 51 degrees tomorrow and 56 on Thursday. They're feeling the heat out in Minnesota too, with temperatures rising as high as 10 degrees above average, with snowfall as low as 8 degrees below average, which is troublesome for all those winter sports athletes up north. While Minnesota is thawing, California is getting some much-needed precipitation this week. This was the scene in Northern California, where as much as a foot of snow fell this weekend at some ski resorts. The weather slowed down highways in the state's high Sierra region, with tow trucks helping to rescue drivers stuck in the snow, because they don't know how to drive in that kind of weather. And finally, at least one place is seeing the kind of winter weather we'd expect, but it might be too much of a good thing. A heavier than expected storm hit the Denver metro area overnight, with drivers waking up to the roads covered in 4 inches of snow with plenty of ice. The weather also caused about 130 flights to be canceled at Denver International Airport.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Are we done?
Good night, everyone.
No, it's fine. Relax.
Who cares? Yay!
Still on the air.
Oh. And
I know
what. We're gonna party and party and what and party and party and party.
I don't have to say this. I do have to say it.
Aww.